He had his own spots on it.
I think we're up to our man of the hour tonight, Andy Cilek, Minnesota Voters Alliance. Is he still around?
No.
He's got a presentation for us, and I think it'll be good.
We need one more.
I think so.
Okay, everyone, I want to introduce Andy Cilek from Minnesota Voters Alliance. I've been working with Andy for several years. Sorry. And he is doing wonderful work on election integrity, and he's got a whole bunch of things to tell you, and we're going to try to get this PowerPoint going correctly.
All right, thanks so much, Sue. Can you all hear me back there? All right, how many of you guys heard of the Minnesota Voters Alliance? A few of you. Okay, that's cool. That is awesome. But I want to first by thanking Don Lee and the LEA for inviting us to come and share for a few minutes with you folks tonight. It's really an honor to be here with every one of you, and I know that everybody in here, I recognize a lot of people, work your butts off. And having legislators like these guys down there fighting really makes it all worth. If it wasn't for you guys, I don't think any of us would be here. So thank you guys for fighting and showing us what fighting is all about. So, but I want to start, I want to start to just try to loosen maybe myself up. We got a lot of good content to show you. And I want to start with just a little joke I heard the other day. How many of you guys have heard the joke about the state trooper? None of you, except for maybe Greg. Well, so there's a senior citizen, seasoned citizen, 80-year-old gentleman. Lives by himself, got a lot of money. He decides, you know what, I'm going to go buy me a brand new sports car. I've never had a car. I got all the money I need. I'm 80 years old. I'm gonna buy myself a birthday present. So he buys himself a really fast sports car. He's driving down the highway. And he thought, this is kind of fun. So he steps on the gas. He gets up, going pretty good, well over the speed limit. All of a sudden he sees the state trooper. Lights flashing. And he says, oh my gosh. So his first thought was, I better stop, but he says, I'm gonna have some fun. So he takes off and he gets going over 100 miles an hour. And he said, no, I can't be doing this. That was in my younger days, I better pull over. So he pulls over. State trooper comes up and goes, what, could you tell me why you were going so fast? Do you realize you were going over the speed limit? And he said, I'll tell you what, it's a Friday afternoon. If you can tell me a good reason that I have not heard before, I will not give you a ticket. So he thinks about it and he says, well, officer, I got to tell you, about 30 years ago, my wife ran off with a state trooper. And I thought you were bringing her back. So anyway, that's kind of what we're going to talk about. We're just going to have some fun. We're going to talk about what they're doing down at the Capitol. It is insane. And so we're going to show you a little bit of legislative history and how we've been kind of connecting some of the dots. And we want to see if you want to agree with that. I'm going to buzz through. I got to go really fast. I know we only have a few minutes. I'm going to start with a little video clip we put together. It's a minute and a half, and it's got a little clip from the U.S. Supreme Court case that we won a couple of years back against Joe Mansky. And it's got a picture of the Reagan Library where Sue Jeffers and I were. All right. So this is just a little video clip. It's got a little bit of Ray Charles music. It's only a minute and a half long. But this case is Minnesota Voters Alliance versus Mansky. Who's ever heard of Mansky?
I have.
Joe Mansky was now retired a year or so ago. Used to drink frequently in Sue's bar, right?
He did.
Ramsey County elections manager. He used to work for Mary Kiff. When Mary Kiffmeyer first became Secretary of State, Joe Mansky worked in Mary Kiffmeyer's office as the state elections guy, whatever his title was. And he knew that Mary Kiffmeyer didn't like the guy. And he knew that Kiffmeyer was going to get rid of him, so he applied for the Ramsey County elections manager job, and that's how he worked ever since. But this guy, we're going to talk, really the fundamental hijacking of our ballot boards stemmed from Joe Mansky. So that's why I think it's kind of a tie-in to show a little bit about our case against Joe Mansky when, you want to test that? Oh, it should be out already. It should be the USB. Yeah. But what Joe Mansky did was he came out with a policy banning Tea Party t-shirts at the polling place. Now, I could really care less if they banned everything or if they let everybody wear whatever. That's not what really got us upset. What got us upset is they only banned one type of t-shirt. Tea Party t-shirt. How would the Black Lives Matter feel if he just banned Black Lives Matter? They probably wouldn't be happy either. So that's really what the case was about. It wasn't really that we were unhappy because we couldn't wear something. It's not what the case was about. So this, let's see, I'm going to start with, I'm going to turn it on. It's on green. Hey, there we go. So this was our 15th year anniversary we had after one of our hearings downtown. It's got Fremont Gruss, World War II veteran there. And many of you know Cindy Pugh, Donna Bergstrom.
Yeah.
And then you see, you've got Eric Lee from Judicial Watch in the back. Sue, Dan McGrath, Eric Cardall. You see some of those folks. So it was a lot of fun. We had a little nice dinner over at the hotel over across the way. And let's see, this is the one right here. I'm going to hit the play button. Maybe Sue, could you hit the play? It's 1.5 minutes long. Is that the loudest? Can you guys hear that? There we go.
For purple mountain majesties. Whoa.
It's an invitation for arbitrary enforcement and enforcement that's not even-handed. And I have no idea where the line lies. How about a shirt with a rainbow flag? Would that be permitted?
A shirt with a rainbow flag? No, it would. Yes, it would be. It would be permitted.
How about a shirt with the text of the Second Amendment?
Your Honor, I think that could be viewed as political. That would be.
How about the First Amendment?
No, Your Honor, I don't think the First Amendment. And Your Honor,
No, what? It would be covered or wouldn't be allowed?
It would be allowed.
It would be.
It would.
Let's not forget who these people were and what they were wearing.
Regardless of the outcome, the case is undeniably significant.
It is so difficult to get a case to the U.S. Supreme Court these days.
University of Minnesota professor Timothy Johnson explained that while between 8,000 and 9,000 litigants ask the Supreme Court to hear their cases every year, justices typically hear fewer than 80 cases each term.
So that case has been cited in federal court cases, over 45 federal cases since the last time I heard. And so we ended up winning 7-2. Can anybody guess the two justices who voted against us, other than Sue? Sotomayor, yes, has won. No, Kagan was on our side. No, Roberts was on our side too.
Ginsburg.
Breyer, yeah. We had Kagan. Ginsburg was on our side. Okay, I better get going. The Star Tribune, on the front page of the Star Tribune on Easter Sunday, back in 2019, this is a quote I like to put on here: a self-styled strike force of election integrity watchdogs. We don't get into a lot of cases. We have a few cases going. A lot of it's in the long term. We have like 7 or 8 cases going somewhere through the appeals process, either in district court or federal court or the Court of Appeals. And the handout we have kind of shows a summary of those. Now, not everybody likes us. You guys remember the city pages? Yeah. Here's what they said about us on their front page. A shadowy league of vigilantes trying to choke off Minnesota access to the Minnesota polls. So not everybody likes us. Now, you guys all heard absentee voting. You know, that we predicted it was going to be a lot higher in 2020. It hit almost 2 million up, but you can see the curve here where it's been going, and it hit somewhere around 2 million. That's almost 2/3 of all the ballots. And that's really what we're here to talk about. Who is looking at those ballots? And we're going to talk about why we're in the situation we're in with our absentee ballot boards and our early voting centers. And we're going to try to walk you through what happened and how we got to this stage. I like to put this little map on to give you a little perspective. We just finally got, it was about a year ago, right before the holidays, I called a couple of my board members and I said, hey, you guys, sometime after the holidays when things slow down, we have to look at the ballot board statutes, because I can guarantee you what we're going to find. And I hadn't looked at one yet. And I have a handout with some of those on there. I said, you know what we're going to find? That the Republicans had a right to be in those rooms examining those ballots, and they ain't there, and they don't even know it. That's what we're going to find. And that's exactly what we found.
Amen.
That is exactly what we found. How did I even get to that point where I knew that? Because I talked to people. I talked to people like Sue Jeffers, who tried to get on the Ramsey County ballot board in 2018, and Joe Mansky said,
No.
veto. And who did he put in your place?
Oh, the Democrat attorney's wife.
The Democrat attorney's wife, who had 1 year experience and you had
20.
And that's how they've interpreted these statutes, allows them to pick and choose who they want and who they don't want to examine all the ballots. And you're going to see why. Why? Is that's to bring down the number of rejected ballots. And we're going to show you tonight that in 2008, there was 4% rejection rate. Does anybody know what the rejection rate was this last election? 1. That's a big difference. So that's what we're talking about. That's why they want their friends examining the ballots. But don't let me forget tonight, we have a person I want to introduce tonight, Tony Ward. You want to raise your hand? I'll bring you up. I'll invite you up in a second. Tony Ward was one of our plaintiffs in the case against Ramsey County, right? Because Tony was on the Republican election judge party list. How many of you guys were on the list? How many of you guys were on the list in Ramsey County? Were you contacted to be on the ballot board?
No.
So, interestingly, and I'm going to bounce around, but you can apologize. Tony Ward was one of our plaintiffs, lives in White Bear Lake. The day after we filed our lawsuit against Ramsey County, the day after, they called our co-plaintiffs to come and serve on the ballot board.
Imagine that.
I put Camp Hansen, Okinawa. I didn't have any experience. My first experience with absentee ballots was in Camp Hansen, Okinawa, when I was stationed there in 1985. And I put that up here. It's just kind of a fun story. In 1985, I was in the Marine Corps. How many Marines? How many military guys?
Not a Marine.
Army?
Yeah.
Do you know what Army stands for, Cal?
Settle down.
Ain't ready to be a Marine yet. No. But do you know what USMC stands for? Uncle Sam's Misguided Children. Fit right in. But no, in 1985, I had 6 months left. I was getting out. It was my last year. And I was in the Combat Engineer Battalion at Camp Hansen. And I had 6 months left, and I had all this vacation saved up. And we had plans to go to the Philippines. We already had, I was going 3 different times, taking all my leave. And everybody else is buying stereo equipment. I said, no, I'm not going to get over here much. And it was peacetime, thanks to Ronald Reagan, kept us out of the war from the 1983 bombing. I thought for sure we were doomed, but I was in peacetime. I respect anybody who's been in combat. I wasn't, but I'm just grateful we had Ronald Reagan in there. But so anyway, 6 months left, my gunnery sergeant comes up to me and he goes, Andy, and he's got these 3 big 3-4-inch binders. He sets them on my desk and he says, you're the new voting NCO. I said, what? What do I gotta do? Do I gotta read these? I said, Gunny, I'm gonna be gone 3 of the next 6 months. Right? I'm going on vacation. I got my leave papers already submitted. He said, don't worry, Andy, it's a non-election year. Not many people are gonna be wanting to vote for their city council and their mayor, right, back home. So I got out of it. So I really hadn't paid attention to absentee ballots until this about 12, 13 months ago. And then we started reading the statutes that are on the table in front of you. And I encourage you to take these home and just kind of read through them. And they connect. That's what we're going to try to do. Ballot boards, this is what we'll talk about. 203B121, you guys have that on your... We're just going to talk a little bit about the legislative history. How did we get to where we're at now? How did we get iced out? How were the Democrats successful in icing out the entire Republican Party? From the ballot boards, to the early voting centers, to the polling places. How did they do it? We're going to show you. It starts right here. It starts right here with Ryan Winkler, who is currently the majority leader. Yep, now this is, you're going to love this. But keep in mind, you guys remember the Frank and Coleman race? We're going to find out, he's going to talk in here about how many ballots there were, how many rejected there were, right?
How many found in the trunk?
Let's try this.
The issue is absentee ballots. The bill essentially addresses 2 primary issues. One is that in the 2008 elections, there were 300,000 absentee ballots cast in the state of Minnesota. In some jurisdictions, such as Edina, one-third of the total votes cast in the whole election were through absentee ballots.
Okay, before I play the next slide, that was 2008. In 2009, the Democrats came to the table with a bill. And they had the House and the Senate, but they didn't have the governor. Polanyi was the governor. And that bill would have allowed staff, just their selected staff, to be on the ballot board to accept and reject absentee ballots. They didn't get one Republican vote, and Polanyi vetoed it.
Yay.
Right? So now they're talking about, this is 2010. So they had to come back to the table, and they had to work with Republicans. And that's actually the statute you're seeing in front of you. There was a slight modification in 2013 that we're going to get to. So next slide, please. There's three Winkler audios.
The issue is absentee ballot. Of the 300,000 cast statewide, 12,000 were rejected, and 2 of those 12,000 were improperly rejected. And of course we all know the Coleman-Franken recount issue and the question of how to treat absentee ballots, whether they were properly or improperly rejected. And so this bill takes a number of steps to try to ensure that many fewer absentee ballots are improperly rejected.
Okay, let's stop right there. I don't have time to play it again. I wish I could. You hear what he said? He said there was 12,000 rejected, and there were 2 of them improperly rejected. Two. So then he says the goal of this bill is to make 2 lower. You know what that tells me? That ain't his real goal. That ain't his real goal at all. His real goal is to get 12,000 down to 2. That's what his goal is. So next slide, please. That makes
the makeup of the absentee ballot board is a little different than the bill we had last year, which allowed the county staff to do the work. And again, through work with Representative Kipmeyer, we now will have election judges doing that.
That's a good deal, right?
Yeah.
Election judges, different parties, examining ballots.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's what passed in 2010. Oh, what was the vote? Whoops, I went too fast. 194-2. That bill passed to require election judges from both parties. There has to be one from each party examining and accepting and rejecting every single absentee ballot. That's what the bill was in 2010. The Democrats hated it. They lost control. Why? Because they were unable to keep people like Sue Jeffers or a lot of you people in the room out of those rooms where that stuff, that accepting and rejecting, is happening. So here's the legislative history. This is where everything went off the rails. This is the primary thing I want to talk to you guys about tonight. In 2013, keep in mind, the Democrats, correct me if I'm wrong, had the House, Senate, and governor. Right? Look at the names on this bill. You probably can't see it. Halverson, Sanders, Uglum, O'Driscoll, Freiberg, and others. What the Democrats have realized is they identify the really stupid Republicans. Why? So they can go to the media and boast that they have bipartisan support. And where's the first place that Richie or Simon go? Tim O'Driscoll and Tim Sanders, in my opinion. Sanders is not in there anymore. O'Driscoll is. In fact, the next year, I think Doubt got in there and made O'Driscoll the chair of the elections committee. But let's give Kurt Doubt some credit, because Kurt Doubt actually stopped them when the other Republicans weren't paying attention. What Kurt Doubt realized is, even though we have no control at all, we don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the governor. But Kurt Doubt was smart enough to know that Governor Dayton made one pledge that he actually kept for 8 years. Does anybody know what that was? He wouldn't sign an election bill without bipartisan support. He honored that pledge for 8 years. And Kurt Doubt was smart enough to know that even though he was in the total minority, he had some leverage. Okay? So this is what this is about. Election judges performing the duties of this section must be of different political parties. You see this right in your subdivision 2 of the ballot board statute, subdivision 2. This talks about election judges from different parties have to examine the ballots. The Democrats didn't like it, remember? They've been fighting for years to get rid of that. So this was the bill that didn't pass, but this was the bill in House File 979. Lead author was Halverson, Democrat. Of course, she got O'Driscoll and Sanders on there, but that's to be expected. Unless they are staff of the county auditor. So they want to go back to where the bill they tried to get in 2009 that Poleni vetoed. Right? Everybody with me so far? So now, here's what we don't know, and John Augustine, I got to credit him for a lot of this research for us. Thank you, John. Let's give John a big hand. I wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for John Augustine. I would say I'm not that smart of a guy. I got a C. I got pretty much C grades of C all the way through high school and college. But I did manage to pull 2 A's. I always got an A in math. I wasn't good at anything else. But I got 1 A in logic. And you know what that logic was? 101. And that's what this stuff is. It just isn't that. Okay, so here's the bill. Kurt Daudt, and we're gonna play for you what Kurt Daudt actually said.
Yeah, I think so what we're saying is that staff can be doing this. We don't think it's a task that needs to have an election judge actually present for the task.
Mr. Chair?
Mrs. Erickson.
Representative Daudt, not necessarily. In most cases, we're always going to use the election judges as the ballot board. However, staff may be assisting in the process or may be as a supplementary person with the board itself, and therefore should be able to serve in an impartial capability.
Representative Daudt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Erickson. So the staff could be doing this without the election judges there, like volunteer election judges. So there may be nobody present when this is happening that's performing these duties, which would be basically determining whether they can accept or reject within 3 days after receipt of the absentee ballot envelope. Is that right?
Mr. Chair, Representative Daudt, that is correct. That is the function of the ballot board. They're looking for the technical accepting and rejecting process. The accepting and rejecting part of the absentee ballot board is open to the public and can have representatives from any or either party or any other person who wishes to be present can observe that process as well.
Yeah, she's corrupt as hell too. That Deb Erickson up in it's Deb Erickson up in Crow Wing County. She's the one that was involved in bringing all those 20 totally mentally incapacitated persons down to vote up in Crow Wing. That made national news. Fox News flew in and drove up there for that whole story. And Deb Erickson is Simon's #1 kind of go-to person. But so you can see all the BS in there, right? I mean, it's just complete nonsense. So what happened was, this is where we don't really have any legislative history. There weren't really many hearings, because what Kurt Daudt said is, I'm uncomfortable with this. Okay? And he says, I'm happy to meet with Representative Halverson offline. Okay? So they went and met somewhere in a coffee shop or in one of their offices. We don't know. All we know is they met offline, and when the final amendment to the ballot board bill showed up in the omnibus bill, this was gone. So Kurt Daudt stopped it. It didn't pass. And all they ended up with was this. This is the only change that resulted. That was in House File 894 in the omnibus bill. The board may include staff trained as election judges. They crossed it out and put deputy county auditors, deputy city clerks. Now, why would they do that? Why in the hell would they do that? And that's the one question that I hope to answer for you guys tonight, because that is the fundamental core of the swindle that took place in 2013, that took total control and oversight away from all of us guys, you guys. And that's what we're fighting in court. Okay? So now it gets up. A deputy county auditor. Sue, have you ever been a deputy county auditor?
No.
I thought they deputized you.
Yeah, they did, but we weren't called that.
You were just called deputized.
Yeah.
Okay, we got some more stuff about being deputized. Okay? They walk around with deputy name tags. You're a deputy now. But the problem is they pick their friends and put deputy name tags on them.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a law for that. And so that's one of the challenges in court also. The swindle. This is what drives me. This is where I get the passion to come here tonight. The swindle. This is what makes my blood boil. And there's Joe Mansky. You know that when we flew to the U.S. Supreme Court, it was kind of fun. By the way, the Supreme, I don't know how many they fit. 200-300 people in there? 400?
Yeah.
You guys, at 6:30 in the morning, there was a line of over 200 people to go to our court hearing. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And we were playing, so Sue and me got to go, right in there. We were just like cool. All the media's chasing us down. We were like stars. And they're like, and they're like going, oh, so WCCO calls me and they said, well, what about this Tea Party t-shirt and all this other stuff? Everybody knows Tea Party's partisan. And I said, well, what about WCCO there, John Hines? What, you know what I mean? I'm live on his radio. What about your station? Everybody I talk to thinks you're partisan. And he got all frustrated with me. Same thing with NPR. You see what I mean? Just throw it right back at them. Everybody I know. How many in here think NPR is a left-wing organization?
Of course.
How many think WCCO and Don Shelby?
Oh, I can't listen.
What did Jason Lewis call Shelby? What was Jason Lewis's? Huh? Dirty Don? DFL Don. That was DFL Don. So this is Joe Mansky. Now you look at that. Did you guys see this?
Such a sweet face.
They changed this one little teeny provision in the statute. This is where the whole thing went off the rails. They crossed out staff and they put deputy county auditor or deputy city clerks. So in the conference committee audio I'm going to play you, Senator Newman, you can barely hear him. He goes, they're talking about party affiliation. And Senator Newman goes, where does it say they don't have to declare their party? It doesn't. So then they brought an expert in, Joe Mansky, who's going to tell us. Oh. So now we got an expert coming, you guys. So now just to give you a background, with no further ado, let's bring on Joe Mansky.
Senator Newman.
Where is the language that they have to take an oath that says they're not
President Halverson.
There's no language in this particular statute, but there is, it's part of their duties as county auditors and county clerks.
Could Ms. Fraser or staff comment on that? It sounds like that provision of statute isn't in the bill, so it's not before us, but is that?
That's Simon's.
Mr. Garrett?
Actually, Mr. Mansky might be able to help with that.
Mr. Mansky?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, I'm Joe Mansky from Ramsey County. The ability to appoint deputies is part of the county auditor statute, which I think is Chapter 3, 82, 81, wherever it is. And part of that, when you become deputized, you take an oath to carry out certain duties under the penalty of law. And
okay, let's look back at this. The board may include deputy county auditors. Does anybody see anything in there that talks about appointing people to deputy auditor just to be on the ballot board? No. It ain't in there.
Yahoo!
It ain't in there, and that's the swindle. Right? The question from Newman was, where does it say they don't have to declare? Right? Where does it say that deputies don't have to declare their party? Because if you look at the very first part of 204B.21, it says that they have to, well, first of all, on the top of the ballot board statute, it says that they have to have a sufficient number of election judges, and they have to be appointed, and this is all in that little handout, 203B, right here in the first sentence. They have to be appointed as provided in 204B.19 to 204B.22. Okay? It's got the word "to" in between, which means they got to be appointed and provided, appointed as provided in all those four statutes. And 204B.21 is the one that says they have to come from the party list until the party lists are exhausted. It says it right in the statute, and I printed that in the handout. That's the whole key. They got to come from the party list until they're exhausted before they appoint anybody from any other source. And our interpretation of the statute is election judges, if they don't want to declare their party after the list has been exhausted, they can say they're not affiliated. They can sign a statement that they're not affiliated with a political party. But in doing so, they can still be on the ballot board, but they can't do the duties in subdivision 2. the accepting and rejecting. Why? Because that subdivision says election judges performing the duties of this section must be of different political parties. Is it that?
Different political parties, TFL and Weed Party.
And the Weed Party. Yeah, well, we know that the Weed Parties didn't submit any lists. They were too stoned. Now, excuse me. Can we get back to... No, okay, hold on. Can we... You don't know how to stop that?
There's no language in this particular statute that there is, it's part of their,
this is over here again.
As county auditors.
But this is just fascinating. I listened to all these words. I mean, it's amazing. And they were laughing about it. They were literally laughing about it.
Sounds like that provision of statute isn't in the bill, so it's not before us, but is that?
Yeah.
Mr. Garrett?
Actually, Mr. Mansky might be able to answer that.
Mr. Mansky?
Well, we might as well look at Mansky again.
Mr. Chairman,
by the way,
Joe Mansky from Ramsey County. The
anybody else in here have ADD?
Appoint deputies is part of the county auditor statute.
All right. Hey, no, check it out. When we flew to D.C.
for
our Supreme Court hearing,
part of that, when you become deputized,
I get up in the Minneapolis terminal. I don't know, Sue, I think you flew up before me. I don't know.
Carry out.
I'm strolling in the terminal. I think it was at night or something like that. And I look around and see if I recognize anybody. You know how you do that when you get in the terminal? You know, maybe you know somebody. You know who I see sitting over in the corner? Joe Mansky. Oh yes, yes. Oh, can I keep going now, Sue? So Mansky talks about, remember he said, oh, it's in their oath. There's a statute that allows them to appoint deputies, right? It's in 381 or 2 or something like that. So he really came prepared, didn't he? He really came to the conference committee prepared. He was the expert that came to the conference committee prepared. After a night of drinking again.
Don't go back.
So I went to I found the auditor statute that he was talking about. Here's what it says. Any county auditor may appoint deputies who, before entering upon their duties, blah, blah. The last in yellow is the important part. Such deputies may sign all the papers and do all other things that the auditor may do. It doesn't say they can sign him up and make him a deputy just to be on the ballot board to keep Republicans out. It doesn't say that. Right? So, no, back to this, oh, I can't go to Mansky. Okay, just turn the volume down for a second. There.
I did.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, just let that play. No, check this out now. This is important. Just leave that run. So you see how they went to the deputy city county auditors and the deputy county auditors. Then he goes to here. Now, remember Newman's question? Newman's question. Let's go back to Newman's question. Senator Newman asked in the conference committee, in the audio that we played 3 times for you, and it's currently playing again. Newman said, where does it say they don't have to declare their party? Remember? That's what Senator Newman asked. Nobody knew because it didn't say it. In the same year, in the same omnibus bill, guess what was in there? Volume down, please. In the same omnibus bill, House File 894 in 2013, in the same bill, there was this statute was amended, 204B.45. Guess what they did with the deputy auditors? They put them in there too. Guess where they put this deputy auditor language? Also, in the early voting centers. Everything, the complete hijacking of our election system came from this whole idea of appointing anybody they want for just enough time so they can get in the ballot board room to keep you out. All right? But what did they say in this statute for mail-in ballotings? They said a deputy, you can, it may consist of deputy auditors. Again, it doesn't say appoint, right? It says may consist of deputy auditors. Look at the bottom part. Who need not be affiliated with any major political party. Do you see that? Now, here's the significance of that. If you go back to this one, that's okay, just hit volume down. Okay, so in the same year, the legislature knows how to not require deputies to declare their party, don't they? They didn't do it for ballot boards. They didn't do it for ballot boards. It's a very big key. So we're saying our interpretation of the statute is They have to exhaust the list, and the deputy county auditor may be included, okay? And they have to declare their party just like the election judges, because the whole subdivision 1, the only authority for appointing anybody to the ballot board is as provided in 204B.21, right? It doesn't say the governing body may make a whole bunch of deputies and put them on the board. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say anything close to that. So this is the kind of stuff that's being litigated. I think, so deputy, we're almost done. No, we're almost done. I gotta let Tony Ward say a few words before I leave. Okay, so this is the phony BS that they have them sign. Here, remember Ramsey said, oh, they're my deputies and they're my deputies. Mansky isn't even the auditor. The guy that's appointing all the deputies isn't the auditor. So they put the real auditor's name on it. I hereby appoint Sue Jeffers, Deputy County Auditor. Here's the key. With the Ramsey County Elections Office, the duties specified below, and just for shortness, to work on the ballot board. And there's no authority to do that. Because statute 384 says an auditor can appoint a deputy, but they have to be able to do all the things the auditor can do. Get it? You with me?
I love it.
Okay. She loves it. How many of you know this guy? So get this. Okay, now you guys are getting this. You guys are getting this window? Here's the best part, and then we're going to wrap it up. Right? And you should hear Simon in this. Simon's going, oh, is that all it is? Is that all it is just changing this to this? And he moves it right along. Smooth. Simon is so smooth. He knew exactly what was in there. You know what I mean? He knew that was taking over all of our elections. Right? Okay, 8210.2450. So get this, Simon becomes Secretary of State. Simon passes a rule. You know what that does? And if you look at the statute, there's only one exemption for subdivision 2 accepting and rejecting, and that's for school districts and small towns and off-year elections. It's the only exemption to that statute. Simon makes a rule, and he puts in two members from different parties must be, examining the ballots, unless they're deputy auditors. Are you kidding me?
What a circle of...
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, shit.
The city of Minneapolis appointed over 200 deputy city clerks. And we got an affidavit from in our lawsuit with them. We have another lawsuit against them. You know what they did there? They entered into contracts with 4 unions, public unions, to do the accepting and rejecting. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I'm supposed to be, their staff. Don't you trust them? No. Would you trust all people on one party? No. And the legislature understood that. That's why they required both parties together examining ballots.
Amen.
So they make everybody deputies, you guys. That's the swindle. They put name tags on their friends. You know what I mean? And the way the statute is written, in our view, they got to take them from the party list. And they got to exhaust the party list first. Then they got to go out and find election judges from other source. And a deputy may be included. So you see the little swindle going on here? It's really... So everybody's a deputy, and it reminded me in my last clip of Saturday Night Live. How many of you guys remember Father Sarducci? Yes. Right? I got a little clip of Father Sarducci because this shows the absurdity of what they did in 2013 with this deputy nonsense.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to Weekend Update after a long absence, the gossip columnist for L'Osservatore Romano, Father Guido Sarducci.
I decided to one day quit my job, start a new church, and name myself to the Pope. And that's what I did. I started this church. It's called the People's Catholic Church. And I named myself Pope Maurice I. But please, I want you just to call me Maurice. Because I don't want all of this pomp and circumstance like that other church. And I'm taking this opportunity, if I may, to invite all you people to join the People's Catholic Church. And the great thing about this church is not only do you get to become a member, but you also get to become Pope.
Because that's our saying, tutti uomini sono Pietro. It means that all men are Pope, all men are Peter, all men are Pope.
Everybody's a Pope. Everybody's a deputy, but they got to be friends, and that's the only difference. Oh, wait, I forgot. I forgot, you guys. I did put a couple slides here. This is real. This is current information. Here's Mary Kiffmeyer, the Senate hearing last October, questioning the Hennepin County elections manager and the Ramsey County elections manager. And we also have Senator Carlson here, which is a spitting image of Nadler. You guys know Nadler? Yeah, he's in here too. Check this out.
Tell me how you do party balance, where you get the names from, how you contact them, how you schedule them. Could you just give us a little more specifics about the ballot boards?
Yes, Madam Chair. In Hennepin County, you're absolutely correct. The state statute does provide for election judges who serve with a party affiliation to be members of ballot boards. My understanding of the law also provides for deputy county auditors to serve on absentee ballot boards. And that is what we do in Hennepin County. The way that we staff our absentee ballot board, because it is an enormous number of people, particularly this year, we hire people specifically for this process. So we go through our regular Hennepin County hiring system. We have a posting that goes up. It's open competitive. Anybody can apply. And then we go through our regular hiring process to hire people to serve on this board. And when they're hired for that purpose, they are then made deputy county auditors, and they serve in a nonpartisan capacity on our absentee ballot board.
Okay,
Ms. Jones, can you tell me how you do party balance, where you get the name? But the big thing is 203B.121 subdivision 1 clearly states that you must have election judges. I'll read here. The board must consist of a sufficient number of election judges trained in the handling of absentee ballots and appointed as provided in sections 204B19 And that's really important to recognize that. That is a must. It's not an option, it's a must. And then it goes on to say the board may include deputy auditors, but may include implies that there are election judges to begin with who are from the political party source. And so I'm just going to remind you of that, and that there is a big distinction between training them and how to handle. I think it's difficult to say that they're trained in neutrality. It's like, I think I would rather have that. Senator Carlson, I'll call on you next.
Well, Madam Chair, Madam Chair, this is currently under litigation, and it is not appropriate for this committee to add information or to dispute anything that is under litigation. So what we need to do is stop this conversation and let that litigation proceed. No one here is representing the plaintiff or the defendant in court, and we should not be discussing it.
Senator Carlson, we are having an administrative discussion on process and asking questions that are legitimately before this committee. And this is very important that this kind of information be made available to the general public, of interest to them and also to this committee.
All right, there's one slide left, okay? And we're going to show you the difference. It's a few seconds of David Triplett, the elections manager in Ramsey County. So you just heard how screwed up they are in Hennepin County. Minneapolis the same way. Ramsey County, as I mentioned, we had one of our co-plaintiffs, Tony Ward. If you wouldn't mind coming up here a second, Tony. Well, Tony was our plaintiff. He spent the whole time on it, and we'll give you like 3 minutes, but I want to preface it. But David Triplett, who seems to be an honest guy from what we can tell, David Triplett says we don't do it like Hennepin County. We actually have election judges from the party list accepting and rejecting ballots. That's why it's so you see, and that all started just by challenging them. When you challenge someone that doesn't have a leg to stand on, right, and stay on it long enough, you start to make progress. So I'm going to play this last clip, of which Tony Ward is like a pioneer because he actually served on the ballot board as a Republican election judge. Here's David Triplett.
The other difference is that our ballot board is staffed with 93 election judges and 8 deputy county auditors. Our ballot board has balance between the political party We do have no members from the two new major political parties, so our ballot board is made up of Democrats and Republicans, and then a handful of judges who have provided us a statement that they do not affiliate with the political party. For the accepting and rejecting process, the 93 election judges on our ballot board are always used and are always paired with judges of different political parties to
Bingo.
carry out that.
That's the progress of our lawsuit. That's the progress of our lawsuit. And that progress wouldn't be possible without someone like Tony Ward. So let's give him a big hand. Tony Ward, can Tony have like 2 minutes to just introduce himself and how he served?
Hi, yeah.
Come right in the middle here, please.
I first got involved with the primary. As Andy said, I got asked to be on there. I was the only Republican on there from the list. So I went there first day. I didn't really know what to expect. So I went in there, I saw what was going on, and I saw a few things that shouldn't have been done that they were doing. So the next day I went in, saw a few more things. I talked to Andy on the phone. He said, no, you should go and confront them with it. So I did. And that was things like driver's license numbers, not social security numbers, but driver's license numbers, things like that. They were, if there was numbers missing, they were just letting it go. If there was needed to be rejected, they just said, no, don't write anything on there, just put it in over here, we'll take care of it later.
We'll take care of it later.
Yep. So I went back in there and I said, look, we need to have a conversation. So went in and talked to Dave Triplett, and I said, David, look, this isn't the right way this is supposed to be done. So he said, okay. He pulled up the statutes and he agreed with me. The next day, everything changed. He told his staff that this is the way we're supposed to be doing it, this is the way we're going to do it. So that all changed. Now, for that session, I was the only person that was actually a judge that was on there. The rest were all, deputy auditors. They weren't really deputy auditors, but they were deputy auditors. Well, right, they were all college students, basically. So we got through that, and then coming up to the general election, that changed completely. So completely 180. I went in there and they had 2030 for training to be on the absentee ballot board. We went through that. We had a lot more volume coming in. And that was they had two staff that were there to try and help, but they weren't really doing much. What ended up happening was myself and a Democrat, we ended up taking most of the control of the ballot board, the absentee ballot board. So everybody was coming to us with the questions, with the problems, and it came through us. Pretty much, it got taken away from the staff. It was actually done by judges. So it was a big change. If only we could get the other places to do that.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Tony. Give him a big hand. So, that was it. And I know that the last thing I want to say is, last week I asked Tony if he has a couple minutes, and I'd like to ask him some questions. So I went through the whole subdivision 2, because I'm thinking to myself, as much progress as Tony made, there's probably one thing in there at least that they're not involving him in. And I was right. Number 4 in subdivision 2 says, make sure that they're registered in the precinct or have signed a completed voter registration application. They conveniently left you out of that process.
Right.
Holy smokes. So there's 3 different battles going on in multiple different, we have like 5 lawsuits going on the subject, but there's a fight to get on the ballot board. That's a fight. There's a fight to do the accepting and rejecting on the ballot board. And even when you get in the rooms doing the accepting and rejecting, there's still a fight, another fight to be done. That's why guys like Tony Ward, Tony, I can't thank you enough for making everything I did in this last year worth it.
Yeah.
because of his due diligence in there. So I think that's it. Last slide, Joe Stalin, you guys have heard this. The people who cast the votes don't decide elections. The people who count the votes do. Thank you for your support. Give as much as you can. The good news, when you give to us, give to the candidates too, but when you give to us, you get a tax deduction. So thank you for your time.
You're a difficult target to follow.
I'm a difficult target to follow. I told you I had ADD, didn't I? I didn't tell Don. Who invited me?
No, I'm busy.
No. Sorry, go ahead.
I noticed you don't need the.
You don't need
Oh, you guys, there's envelopes on the table, you guys, if you want to donate.